Okay, so this is today's lesson for WW. Alright, and yesterday we talked about the long I and the short I. Okay, so we had a short I, and the short I made an I sound. I. And remember, your mouth doesn't open very much when you say it, and it's just a short little sound, an I sound. I'm going to draw a line right down the center of my paper. I'd like you to do this too in your notebooks. I'd like a short I on one side, and I'd like a long I on the other, please. Okay, just kind of straight across. Alright. Long I on the other. And the long I says I. So this one actually says its name. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you the word, and you need to write it on which side you think it belongs. Okay, and then you'll check your answer with mine. Your first word is dish. Dish. Remember, this sound is I. If you hear I in dish, then you should write it here. This sound is I. If you hear I in dish, then you should write it here. I'm going to give you a second to try to write it. If you write it here, you are correct. I, dish. Dish. Okay? Your next word is rich. 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 If you hear I in rich, you should write it here. If you hear I in rich, you should write it here. Give everybody a chance to try it. If you thought it went here with the short I, you are correct. Rich. Alright, your next word is life. Life. If you hear I in life, then you should write it here. If you hear I in life, then you should write it here. Give it a try. Alright, if you chose to write it over here, L-I-F-E, you would be correct. And remember, most of the sounds, in fact, I think all of the sounds in our long I this week have an E on the end, because the E is what makes the I say its name. Kind of bosses it around a little bit. It's a bossy E. Okay? The next word I'll give you guys is clip. Clip. If you hear I in clip, you should write it here. If you hear I in clip, you should write it here. Right? If you chose to write it here, you would be correct. I, clip. Alright, your next word is nice. Nice. If you hear I in nice, you should write it here. If you hear I in nice, you should write it over here. Give it a try. Alright, it should go right here. N-I-C-E. And look at that bossy E on the end again. It tells that I what to do. Makes it say its name. Okay, whether the E wants to or not, doesn't matter. Whether the I wants to or not. Your next word, nine. Nine. If you hear I in nine, you should write it here. If you hear I in nine, you should write it right over here. And it goes here. Nine. I. Okay, your next word is stick. Stick. If you hear I in stick, you should write it over here. I, stick. Ick. And I wrote that one for you. We didn't hear an I in stick. That would make it stike. I, stick. Your next word, mice. Mice. Where is that going to go? Mice. If you hear I in mice, put it here. If you hear I in mice, put it over here. And it's going to go right over here. Mice. Okay. Your next word is gift. 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 If you hear in gift, you put it here. If you hear I in gift, you put it here. It's going to go right over here. Gift. Gift. Your next word is flip. Flip. If you hear in flip, put it here. If you hear I in flip, put it here. Flip. It's going to go right here. Flip. Your next word is thin. Thin. If you hear in thin, put it here. If you hear I in thin, put it here. Thin should go right over here. Thin. Your next word is drive. Drive. If you hear in drive, put it over here. If you hear I in drive, put it over here. Drive. Go right over here. Your next word is five. Five. If you hear in five, put it over here. If you hear I in five, put it over here. Five. Should go right over here. Five. Your next word is prize. Prize. If you hear in prize, put it here. If you hear I in prize, put it over here. Prize. It's going to go right over here. Prize. Your next word is hike. Hike. If you hear in hike, put it here. If you hear I in hike, put it over here. Hike. If you got it over here, you are correct. Hike. Alright, your next word is kick. Kick. If you hear in kick, put it over here. If you hear I in kick, put it over here. Kick. Kick. It's going to go right over here. Kick. Your next word, swim. Swim. If you hear in swim, put it right over here. If you hear I in swim, put it right over here. Swim. Swim. It's going to go right here. Swim. Your next word is spill. 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 If you hear in spill, put it over here. If you hear I in spill, put it over here. Spill. You thought it went over here, you are correct. Spill. Spill. Your next one is dice. Dice. If you hear in dice, put it here. If you hear I in dice, put it right over here. Dice. If you thought it went here, you would be correct. Your next word is knife. Knife. And remember, this one has a silent letter in it at the beginning. Knife. If you hear I in knife, put it right over here. If you hear I in knife, put it right over here. Knife. Okay, and that secret silent letter is K. Just sort of snuck onto the beginning of the word. He's best friends with N in this word here. Sometimes we see these two guys together, and we're not really sure why. Sometimes we see them together. Okay, they just hang out, but N doesn't let K talk. He's got to keep him quiet. Knife. Okay. Your next word is kite. Kite. If you hear I in kite, put it here. If you hear I in kite, put it here. And this time K gets to talk. There's no N, so K gets to speak right up. It's going to go right over here. Kite. Okay, and one more. And this one we said was a little bit of an oddball. Okay, and it's the word give. Give. If you hear I in give, you write it here. If you hear I in give, you write it over here. And there's one little trick with give. It goes over here, but watch. Watch as my hand writes it. It goes G, I, V, but you can't stop there. Give has a silent E on the end that doesn't make the I talk. Okay, all of these E's boss the I around and make it say its name. This E, it's pretty nice in give. Okay, it lets the I just make a short sound. Okay, kind of gives the I a present and lets it make its own sound that it wants to. So this sound is give, and that's our kind of little oddball. So that is our spelling lesson for today. WW, short I sounds and long I sounds.